and welcome to another video from yours truly, Mr. Tranquil Blab. Today, we're talking about fears. It's spooky season, and I had the idea to rank the top 10 most common fears in people because I think that's interesting. And I thought it would be kind of fun to put these on a tier, chart like people do. Is the green screen perfect? No. Is my hair long? Yes. Is this video gonna still be fun? Yes. Do I love spooky season? Yes. So strap in and enjoy. Alright, I'm filming this before I've picked out a tier chart, so you're gonna have to bear with me because I don't really know what the tier chart is gonna look like once I start editing this in post. But obviously S will be at the top as a top true fear, and then as we descend the list, we'll get into what I think is just kind of, bogus fears, okay? So, the number one on every single chart is arachnophobia, the fear of spiders. Now, I think, personally, this is a pretty decent fear. I myself am not overly alarmed when I see a spider. They do kind of creep me out, though, because they are able to, cling. So they can cling onto you and kind of, crawl up you, which is kind of disgusting, if you ask me. So I'm not the biggest fan of spiders, but I also think they're kind of cool in a way. I did have an experience when I was probably 10. I was at my grandfather's cabin, and there was a loft upstairs, and I went up there to take a nap, and I climbed under the bed sheets, and I felt something on my leg. I pulled back the covers, and there was a giant spider in the bed, and it scared the living out of me. So, I wouldn't say I love spiders, but I think it's a pretty common fear, pretty decent. I'm probably going to put this at an A tier, arachnophobia. Let's move on to the second fear. The second most common fear on, just Google is ophidiophobia. I think I'm saying that right. Ophidiophobia. And if you don't know, ophidiophobia is the fear of snakes. Now, personally, I think snakes are less scary than spiders. Snakes do still consist of this sneaking around, coiled up, kind of elusive animal, arachnid, whatever, if we're talking about spiders too. But I don't think snakes are as scary. I obviously don't want to hang out with them. I don't want to be bitten by them. But if I had to fall into a pit of snakes or a pit of spiders, actually that would be kind of tough, but I would probably pick snakes. I wouldn't want to fall into a pit of spiders. That just sounds awful. So I'm going to have to rate the fear of snakes as B tier. It has to go below spiders because I think spiders are scarier, personally. Let's move on to number 3. Alright, the number 3 most common fear is acrophobia. And acrophobia is the fear of heights. Now, let me tell you something about Mr. Tranquil Blab. I am really afraid of heights. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't get it. But I don't like them. Now, let me tell you, I have not let it control my life. I've been on planes. I've flown to other countries. I've been on top of mountains. Stuff like that. But I'll tell you this. I don't like it. I don't like being really high up. And you know what the worst is for me? Is really high up and no guardrail. So if it's just a drop, a straight drop, a cliff, no thank you, I'll pass. Fear of heights, for me, has to be S tier. It's scary. It's almost kind of disorienting, to be up so high and just know that one little bad move might make you fall to your doom. Fear of heights, S tier. Okay, we just covered fear of heights, acrophobia. The next on the list is aerophobia. And aerophobia is the fear of flying. Now, this goes hand in hand with my fear of heights. I don't like being on planes. Interestingly enough, I flew a lot when I was in my mid-teens, when I was a young lad, and I don't know what happened, but as I got older, planes got scarier. I do have another fear, which we'll talk about later, that plays into the airplanes, but airplanes is super scary. I don't like them, even though, everyone knows, like, your chances of something bad happening is very low. But God, if something bad did happen on an airplane, I mean, that's gonna just suck, So, fear of airplanes, I can't put it in S tier, so I'm gonna put it in A tier. It's a pretty good fear for me, personally. Let's move on. Alright. The next most common fear is agoraphobia. Now, agoraphobia is fear of open spaces or fear of crowded spaces. Now, I can't speak for everyone. Everyone has their own issues and traumas and, fears and stuff. But for me, I've never felt this ever. Maybe if I'm in a huge crowd, I'm at a concert or something and it's packed shoulder to shoulder, that's a little weird feeling. But that's more of another fear we're going to talk about later that I have a lot of. As far as just like a lot of people in an area, that doesn't freak me out at all. Especially if we're just talking open area, like a field, like an open field. That almost does the opposite for me. That is almost not scary. It's almost relaxing for me personally. So agoraphobia for me is going to rate very low. I don't know what's at the bottom of the tier I'm going to pick in post, but it's probably going to go at the very bottom, but not the very, very bottom. It'll go above whatever the bottom is. So right here, that's where it's going, okay? Not a good fear. All right, remember when I was telling you about, being shoulder to shoulder in a crowd and that I don't like that? So that's less agoraphobia, and that's more of the next most common fear, which is claustrophobia. Now, I am insanely claustrophobic. I don't like being smothered or crowded, especially if the thing that is, confining me, especially if that is very, very unmovable. So, strangely enough, I practice jujitsu a lot. I have huge people on my face all the time trying to smother me and choke me. But that doesn't really trigger this for me for some reason. What does trigger this for me is like spelunking. The dudes that go into caves and like wiggle through crevices and stuff. No. Like, that is a hell no for me. Anything like that, especially if it's like geological. If it's like a confined space that's just super tight and it's like stone, or like if I would be like in a coffin buried underground, that would just be the absolute worst for Mr. Blab, and I wouldn't like that. So I'm gonna put claustrophobia as an S tier. Fun fact, little short story. I was at a all-boys sleepover when I was a kid, and we all had sleeping bags, and somehow I got the sleeping bag put over me, reversed, so like where your head would be coming out of the sleeping bag was my feet. So I was totally covered, and then all the guys like dog piled on me. It was awful. It was so bad. Obviously I'm fine, but it freaked me the fuck out. So claustrophobia, S tier. S tier fear. So good. Let's keep going. Alright, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but the next most common fear is cynophobia. Cynophobia? I don't know. It is the fear of dogs. There's some people that are really afraid of dogs, and you know what? I will throw you a bone. See what I did there? I will empathize with these people a little bit. There are some breeds of dogs that are kind of scary. You know, pit bulls, Rottweilers. They're not even... See, I'm a psychologist. I feel like it's more about how you're raised and not the breed. So I'm sure there's some Rottweilers and pit bulls that are very kind and nice, but a very aggressive dog, I could see how someone would be afraid of that. But what if it's like a Chihuahua? Or what if it's like my dog, like a little 20-pound little cutie? Are you scared of that too? I don't know. Yeah, fear of dogs. I'll put it like mid-range. Something like, I kind of get it, but then also not really. I feel like I'd be more scared of like other animals before dogs. So we'll put it in the middle, maybe like a C tier, okay? Let's move on. The next most common fear, my wife has this really badly. It is something called astrophobia, and that is the fear of thunder and lightning. Now, I'm personally probably more afraid of tornadoes, but my wife is very afraid of lightning or being struck by lightning. I don't really hold that fear. In fact, I like watching storms as long as there's not a tornado. It's fun. It's fun to watch storms. And if okay, look, obviously I don't want to be struck by lightning, so I'm not going to be standing in an open field during a thunderstorm. But if I am like in a safe area where I can watch it, it's great. So I don't really think I have this phobia, but I'm not going to be careless either. I've hiked some mountains, and obviously risk of being struck by lightning goes way up on mountains, and I've always been very cautious of when we do it, because I don't want to be struck by lightning. Who wants to do that? But I wouldn't say I have like a crazy fear about it, like flying or something like that. So not high on the list. I'll put it like D tier for me. Let's see what else is on here. All right. The next fear on the most common top 10 list is something that I honestly feel should be number one. I've never met anyone that is like not scared of this, and that is glossophobia. Now, glossophobia is the fear of public speaking, and I think it scares most people. I am a really decent public speaker, but that's because it's rooted in fear. I don't want to mess up and look like an idiot in front of people I'm speaking to. So if I have a very formal public speaking I have to get done, I usually just lock in and I will memorize whatever I'm talking about front and back. And it's fear-based. It's because I don't want to look like an idiot. And I think most people, like that's probably where the fear of public speaking comes from. They don't want to be rejected. But I think this is pretty good fear. I think it's probably based in some evolutionary things. So I'm going to give glossophobia, let's say, I'm between B or A. So let's just give it an A tier. Glossophobia, fear of public speaking, A tier. All right. The last fear on the top 10 list that the internet just says is the top 10 list is, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, it's called trypanophobia. And trypanophobia is the fear of needles or the fear of getting like an injection or an IV or something like that. For me, personally, this kind of falls in the lightning tier. Okay? I'm not going out in the world and seeking shots. I'm not seeking needles. But if I have to get a shot or I have to get a needle, it doesn't really wake me out that much. I have a friend who's like, you know, a pretty tough guy, I would say, like stereotypically tough guy, manly man, and he hates needles. If he goes and like has to get, you know, a shot, or if he tried donating blood one time and it wigs him out, like he almost passes out when he does it. I don't know what that is or what mechanism causes that, but it's pretty interesting. So I obviously have to rate this the same as astrophobia, the fear of lightning and thunder, because it's kind of just in the same tier for me. I don't remember what I rated that. I think I gave that like a C or a D. So the fear of needles is also going there for me. That concludes the top 10 most common fears, but I'm going to throw you guys some bonus ones, okay? I have this really weird fear that I love swimming. I've been in the ocean a ton of times. There is something about man-made sunken structures. Like, if it's shallow, it doesn't really freak me out. But if I'm like deep in the ocean, like we're talking like 20, 30, 40 feet, something like that, and there is a sunken something, it freaks me out, and I don't know what, I mean, I do know what that is. I'm about to tell you the name of it, but I don't know why it freaks me out, but it freaks me out so much. The name of this fear is called submechanophobia. That's not it. It is called submechanophobia. Submechanophobia. It's called submechanophobia. Wow, that's a hard one to say. And that is just like man-made stuff that is sunken down in the ocean. I don't know why this freaks me out. It's usually like shipwrecks and stuff like that. This is a very, very deep cut. I was a 90s kid, but there's like 2 spots in video games in the early 2000s, late 90s that made me feel like this. So one is in Banjo-Kazooie 1 by Rare. There's a level where there's like a sunken ship. I'll put a picture up here. The other one is in Mario 64. And it's not, well, I guess there is a ship down there, but there's like an eel and a ship at the bottom. It's just a shitty rendered video game, and it scared the fuck out of me, and I don't know why. So I definitely have this fear. That's a fun one. I didn't rate it. I would give this fear of sunken man-made things, I would probably put it at like A tier for me. Yeah, let's give it A tier. The next fear is one called, and I think I'm saying this correctly, calrophobia. This is the fear of clowns. Some people are scared of clowns, painted faces, big red nose, bright colored clothing. You know, they're kind of creepy, big smiles, weird hair colors. Clowns don't really scare me. I don't know why people are scared of clowns. I mean, I've seen scary clowns around Halloween. Here's some scary clowns here. But they're just like, I don't know. If we're just talking about like a villain or a monster, there's way scarier things than scary clowns to me. I don't know. I will say I'm a huge Stephen King fan. Pennywise is like one of my favorite villains of all time. Like back in like the 90s was like one of my favorite villains of all time. I know like it has gotten very popular nowadays, but it's just very cool, but it doesn't really freak me out that much. I don't know why. I'm gonna put Fear of Clowns in D tier. Not that good for me. And that kind of concludes the fears. There's a shitload more of fears out there in the world, but that's all we're going to cover today. Hope you guys are having a great spooky season. The last Halloween roleplay will be out on Halloween, and I hope you're having a great time. Stay safe out there, and I will see you all soon. Thank you.